Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is Mastering the Side Hustle with Russ Siegel. Today's webinar is being recorded. I will be your webinar facilitator today. My name is Alyssa Atkins, and I am the Training and Development Coordinator for the Native Learning Center. A quick disclaimer before we get started. This webinar provides a summary of fundamental concepts, requirements, and/or procedures within the allotted 90 minutes. The material discussed does not illustrate all possible scenarios that could be applicable. Also displayed here is our copyright infringement law. This is just a friendly reminder that the webinar presentation materials are protected by copyright, trademark, trade secret, and other intellectual property laws. If you look at the top of your screen, you will see an icon with a hand with a plus sign. By clicking that icon, you can either raise hand, agree, disagree, show applause, show laughter, or even signal requests like asking the instructor to speak louder or slow down, please. Now your screen should look similar to this graphic here. To the bottom left, you will see a pod that says Files. Here you will find any handouts or appendix items included in today's presentation. Please feel free to download a copy for yourself. Just hover over the item the item you want to download with your mouse, then click the arrow pointing downwards to download and save onto your device. Once the item is downloaded, it should appear in your device's download section. The second pod to the right, labeled Web Links, is where you will find our survey about today's webinar, along with a link to receive our weekly newsletter, connect with the Native Learning Center on LinkedIn, and any other links that will be seen throughout today's presentation. Finally, to the right of the screen, we have a chat pod available. This is how you will communicate with instructor and NLC staff. If you have any questions during the presentation, we welcome you to send them in by using the chat box. Simply type your message into the space that says type here and hit enter or click that up arrow icon button to submit. We do encourage class participation, so please feel free to write in those questions or comments. Tech support issues should also be submitted here, and know that most can be solved by leaving and rejoining the meeting room. Let's all get the chat box going together now by typing in your name, where you're joining us from, your tribal affiliation, and your work or role in Indian country. And it is now with a great pleasure that I introduce Russ Siegel.
Thank you, and good afternoon or good morning to you, wherever you may be. Look forward to spending about the next hour and a half with you talking about something that I absolutely love, and that's helping people start and master a side hustle. I've been helping businesses for over 25 years, and I have the great privilege and pleasure of leading the Sequoia Fund, Native CDFI, in Cherokee, North Carolina. We serve the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians here in about a 7-county region and the Qualla boundary. So if you're familiar with North Carolina or a little bit familiar with North Carolina, you may know where Asheville is in the Blue Ridge Mountains. We are a little bit farther west in the Great Smoky Mountains. So we're in the far left pointy tip of North Carolina, and that's where I'm coming to you from today. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I do outside of Sequoia Fund. You'll see there that I'm a member of the National Speakers Association. This is the NSA that actually speaks, not the NSA that listens. There's one of those up in DC. They're pretty good at listening. But we're going to talk a little bit about me and how some of my experiences translate into helping you. We're going to start with why start a side hustle. I love what I do. I love everything about Sequoia Fund. I eat, breathe, and sleep Sequoia Fund. But I've always had a side hustle. I have always had something extra on the side, mainly as a motivation. It's not always been about earning extra money. Sometimes it's about doing other things, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. I'm going to tell you about one of those things. But really, having a side hustle for me has always just been part of my life. So you don't have to hate your job and be ready to cut ties with that to start a side hustle. It doesn't have to be a gateway to something more. Sometimes it can just be a little something extra that motivates you, that you enjoy doing, and that you can also make some extra money at. we will talk about a process for how to come up with a great idea. And I've given you some downloads here in the file section. So if you look down in the in the file section in the bottom left, you'll see number 3 is Side Hustle Starters. You can download this. You can download today's presentation. I don't want you to feel like you have to write everything down. You don't have to take notes. This is going to be a pretty content-rich slide presentation. You can use this for future reference. But that number 3, Side Hustle Starters, is an excellent way to get started. If you're just looking for some ideas, it is chock full of ideas. Now, I'm not going to say that the one you pick is necessarily going to be there. That's why, as many as there are on that list, we're going to go through a process to help you pick the right side hustle for you. As a side hustle, you don't need to go to the same level of planning that you would for I'm going to quit my job and start something completely different business. But a side hustle still takes some measure of planning, takes a little bit of vision in how you're going to operate that side hustle and get some things done. And I'm going to show you a process for that as well. How to manage things effectively, because you only have so many hours in the day. And if this is going to be a good side hustle, it's going to be a good return on your investment. You want to be able to manage it effectively. You don't want to just spend all of your time taking care of it, because the reason for starting a side hustle a lot of times is so that it can take care of you. We're also going to talk about when should it at all become your main hustle. Should that side hustle become the main hustle? Is there a time when you should look at quitting your job? And the internet is full of stories of people who started a little side hustle in their dorm room between classes, or they started a little side hustle as a new mom while the baby was napping, or the family started a little side hustle on the weekends to help pay for an extra vacation, and it ballooned. And now the entire family works in this multi-million-dollar business that started as a side hustle. That can happen. It is not the norm. I will just put that out there right now. If this happens to you, I tip my hat to you. Kudos to you. That would be wonderful, because chances are you're going to love it more than what you do now. You're going to make more money than what you're making now, and you're going to be able to take more time for yourself than you're taking now. But because that's not the norm, I don't want to set that up as the expectation. But there may again come a time when you say, you know what, I'm making as much now as I'm making on my job. If I made a little bit more to cover my insurance and my retirement, I could get there. That is a huge, huge step for most people. Well, let's start with, why do we want to start a side hustle? I'm going to talk to you about a couple of academics who've come up with some pretty good information. We're going to unpack this a little bit. Doctors Joseph Raffier and Ji Fing said that people who maintain their regular gig while launching their new venture in stages are a third less likely to fail than those who jump ship without a safety net. Don't know what happened to our type there. I'm sure on your copy, on your PDF, it's probably not running into those spacing issues. A third less likely to fail than those who jump ship without a safety net. And that's true. There are several reasons for this. You are less likely to fail when you start a side hustle because you're not as dependent on it. You're not as focused on, oh, I have to make money, have to make money, have to make money. I have to survive. I have to keep the doors open. I have to keep the lights on. I have to pay the insurance. I have to pay my employees. You have a lot less pressure, but you also have a backup in your regular job. If a side hustle is done right and you need to put a little extra money into it to maybe take it to the next level, bulk up your inventory, take on a new project, you've got some income to help you do that. So there are a lot of reasons why you would be less likely to fail. They also said these hybrid entrepreneurs have much higher rates of survival relative to those who quit their jobs and then directly start a new company. Again, very true. That's true because, again, it's hybrid. You're not jumping into the ocean. You might be jumping into the deep end of the pool, but you can always reach out and grab the edge of the pool to pull yourself out. if you need to. And sometimes starting a business that's not a side hustle is a lot like just jumping into the ocean and you don't have anything to grab onto. It's sink or swim. I also want to point out that academics like these guys, and there are a lot of them out there who believe wholeheartedly that the only reason anyone would ever start a side hustle is so that they could grow it to become a main hustle. You're going to start the side gig, it's going to become your main gig, it's going to grow to be, the size of Microsoft or Dell Computers or Google. That's really just not the case. And that's borne out by some recent surveys. People are not starting these businesses because they want to become the next Google or the next Facebook. They're starting because they want to earn some extra income. We're going to dig into the extra income that people are actually earning here in just a moment, but let's take a look at some of these other things. They want to build a career. Maybe they start a side hustle to help them build some skills. Maybe they start welding on the side. I'm going to start welding a little bit. I'm going to start doing some side jobs for my neighbors. I'm going to fix a lawnmower here and there. I'm going to fix a tractor. I'm going to fix somebody's trailer, somebody's boat trailer, things like that. And eventually I'm going to get good enough that maybe I can hang my shingle out and do this and make some money. My motivation years and years ago for starting a side hustle was that I had some skills that were in demand. And I could help companies, and I work with small and mid-sized companies across the country. And I worked for a college at the time, and I of course, being a public institution, I had to disclose all of my extra income to them, and I had to fill out a form every year and tell them what I was doing, and they were fine with that. And part of the reason they were okay with that was that the skills I inevitably learned from my clients, I could bring those back to benefit my local clients here at the college. So it was continuing education from their standpoint. That's what they saw it as. It was definitely skill development on my end because the things that I could learn here with our clients locally, I used with with my personal clients across the country and vice versa. I would always bring those skills back and bring those to bear on companies that needed that. So it was a very good arrangement. And I was constantly, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm the nerdy kid who used to lie on the floor and read the encyclopedia. My grandmother uh, used to get green stamps. That's dating me a little bit. If you're old enough to remember green stamps, she would get green stamps and she'd trade those in for encyclopedias. A lot of people were trading those in for dishes and for casserole dishes and plates and things like that. No, she was buying us encyclopedias. I was the nerdy kid who had, my knowledge base was a mile wide and an inch deep. I knew a little bit about almost everything because I read those encyclopedias. So I've been a lifelong learner. Skill development has always been big for me, but look at how small that percentage is. It's just a little bit less than 10%. It's about 8% who actually start a business for skill development. Interestingly enough, it's about the same number of people who start a business or the same percentage of people who start because they have a passion or a personal interest. Sometimes those passions, those personal interests are enough to motivate us to do this thing as a hobby, but not necessarily to do enough of it so that we could earn money with it. But look at that bottom line. 80% of people who start a side hustle are doing it to earn extra income. Now, the graphics that I'm going to show you here from Dollar Sprout throughout our presentation today are also borne out in recent surveys by Bankrate, by the Federal Reserve, and some others. I mean, these are all very, very close. They're asking the same questions. They're getting the same answers. That's a pretty good indicator that these are very accurate. And the reason we see this extra income, such a great percentage of people want to start a business for extra income is for several reasons. A lot of people started these businesses during COVID. In fact, the majority of side hustles in operation today were started since 2019 because people were sitting at home, their businesses were shut down, they were not allowed to go to work, and they said, I've got some skills, I need to do something to stay busy. I'm going to start a side hustle. And these side hustles have continued. Another thing is that in an economic downturn, when you have high inflation, when you have a higher cost of living, when rents are going up, food prices are going up, staples are going up, people start side hustles to supplement that income. Now, the funny thing is, how are they using that money? Well, let's talk about that. Almost 70% of Americans now report having a side hustle. 116 million that are 16 and older report having a side hustle. Now, why do we say 16 and older? When I was 16, I went to school, I played sports, and I had a job. Teen employment was a thing. It still is. But in the last few years, the teenage employment, the labor participation rate among teenagers was the lowest it's been in over 40 years. There's some reasons for that as well. Psychologists will tell you that kids have, one of three things: school is their thing, sports are their thing, or work is their thing. Along with sports, they count, marching band and things like that. But you've got kids who just play sports constantly. They don't have time to work. And that's the thing. You got kids who study, they want to get into Harvard or Yale or whatever, and they believe that that's the path for them. You got kids who just not that interested in school. My nephews, I've got 3 nephews, 2 of them couldn't care less. They wanted to work. They wanted to earn money. That was their motivation. But nowadays, because kids have so many other things going on, for them to work, because school is allegedly the full-time job, the full-time hustle, work is now not just a job, it's considered a side hustle. Almost 70% of side hustles report earning less than $500 a month, and only 12% earn $1,000 or more per month. That's not a lot of money. But people are using that money. I said, we're going to get to this, and here it comes. Here it comes. I might hit some of you a little too close to home. I apologize. Please don't shoot the messenger. People are working to make extra money. They're not making a lot of extra money, but they're using that money to support their lifestyle. They're still getting their hair and their nails done. They're still tricking out their cars. They're still, they're buying the big screen TVs. They're still taking trips. They're doing things that maintain their lifestyle. And they're using that money to pay down credit cards, or at least maintain their credit cards, because credit card utilization has just skyrocketed over the last 3 or 4 years. So we're seeing more people living on credit cards. They're starting a side hustle now to pay for those credit cards. If they could pay off the credit cards, maybe they would have more time, they would have just as much money, and they would have less stress. But that's a discussion for another day. 72% of men and almost 67% of women are pursuing a side hustle. Millennials are leading the charge. Millennials are leading the charge. Why are millennials leading the charge? Well, millennials, do we have any millennials here? If you do, you can raise your hand, or you can put a yes in the chat box. You millennials were born at just the right time. You are in that sweet spot where technology came along at the right time for you to really capitalize on it. So we have a lot of digital nomads. We have a lot of people who are using their digital skills to earn extra money in that demographic. Us in the Gen X, we in the Gen X demographic, we were learning about computers that were the size of a school bus. Computers weren't really a thing in our homes when we were kids. They were in your homes when you were kids. By the time the Gen Z crowd came around, we got TikTok, we got YouTube, we got a lot of ways for them to become quote unquote influencers, I think is what everybody wants to be these days. But you millennials really hit the sweet spot for technology, which gave you a boost. But here's the interesting thing. Look at baby boomers. The youngest baby boomers are 60 years old this year. That's the youngest. The oldest are about 75 to 76 years old. And almost 20% of them have a side hustle. Some of this is out of necessity, and has been for a long time. Reselling and flipping items, almost 40%. But let me just say right here, for the record, I don't believe that reselling items is necessarily a side hustle. Now, here's why. Poshmark. You may have seen or heard the ads for Poshmark, and you may be using Poshmark. Poshmark has done a really great job positioning their platform as a side hustle. I mean, that's what the ads tell you. This is a great side hustle. If you are reselling things that you have already bought and you're just trying to recoup some money from them, Poshmark is no more a side hustle than a garage sale. If you have a garage sale, you're selling things you've already invested in, you've used, you're just trying to get a little bit of money back out of them, not a side hustle. However, if you are flipping items, if you are upscaling, if you're adding value to those things, then we would consider that a side hustle. If you have a Chanel bag that you bought for $6,000 and you're reselling it for $7,500 or $8,000 because they don't make that anymore and you can get that out, that's an investment. Sure, we'll count that. Okay. There's always an exception to every rule. But if I buy a pool table for $3,000 and then years later decide I don't need it, selling it for $500 is not a side hustle. Freelance work, online freelance work has boomed, and there are so many platforms. I'm going to give you some of those platforms here momentarily. A lot of those platforms make it really easy to take your work online, whether it's programming, whether it's design work, whether it's voiceover work. You might have a great radio voice or something that maybe you could do a podcast. Maybe you could do narration. Maybe you could read audiobooks. All kinds of things out there now. And then outside market research and paid surveys are still in there. And yeah, we're going to talk about that. 77.2% of side hustlers are somewhat or highly dependent on earned income. Why? Because again, we're still reeling from economic conditions. We're still trying to pay down those credit cards that we ran up. And the average side hustler says they make $891 per month. Now, that's not insignificant. That's pretty good. And it's up from what it was last year at $810. So how much are people making? Well, you can see right here that $891 is right there in the middle. Fewer people making $1,000 or more. You got a few folks who are making more than $2,000, and that's good. But why? I think we can tie it to this graphic. Online freelance work is about 30%. Ride sharing and delivery service. Look, if you live in an area where the population can sustain DoorDash, Uber Eats, Uber, Lyft, anything like that, great, go for it. That work is not compulsory. Every Lyft driver, every Uber driver I've ever talked to loves what they do. They love meeting new people. Some have been displaced from layoffs for a variety of reasons. Whatever it is, they are doing this and they're enjoying it. They wouldn't be driving people from the airport to the hotel at 1 o'clock in the morning if they didn't like doing it. Nobody makes them do that. In fact, there are a lot of drivers like doing it at night. Selling goods online. Again, there are people on both sides of the fence. There are people who tell me, I can't make any money on Etsy. It's just not possible. I can't sell my stuff for enough. And there are other people, again, selling different things who are making really good money on Etsy. And yes, eBay is still a powerhouse. It's not to be ignored if you're selling or reselling goods. If you're upscaling furniture, if you're flipping goods, and you can flip anything these days. You can flip cars, you can flip houses, you can flip furniture, you can flip electronics. There are people taking old electronics, old computers, turning them into gaming computers that are just really powerful, and they're getting a lot of money for them. Yeah, Mary says she met a driver earns more than $100,000 doing ride sharing. Yes, again, it depends on where you are. I live in the sticks in Western North Carolina. We're probably not going to have a lot of rides out here. My wife talked about doing that one time, just as a little side, just something to give her something extra to do. We have a college nearby, and they might occasionally need a ride, but all these students, it's a regional university, so they all drive. They all have cars. So when she started thinking about it, maybe that wasn't the best way for her to make some money. Real estate. Now, one of the side hustles, again, I've always had a side hustle. In addition to my work at Sequoia Fund, I am a speaker, I am a consultant, I am an advisor, but we also own 3 properties. We have one that is a short-term Airbnb here near the college. We specialize in parents coming to town. We love our parents who come to visit their kids here. We have a midterm rental, which is close to a couple of hospitals, and we rent that on a 3 to 4 month basis because that's the length of their contracts. And we have another longer term rental that we rent on an annual basis to a family. So we still do that. It's a good little, and we consider that an investment. And in fact, when my wife recently retired, she said she wanted to dabble in stocks. And I asked her if she wanted to do some day trading. And she said she was not up for that kind of volatility. That's just not in her DNA. She's very conservative, just wants to kind of dabble in a little bit. But she wanted to learn how stocks are traded. She wants to learn what makes stocks go up, what makes them go down, what causes the volatility in the markets, what makes a good stock, what makes a bad stock, and those kinds of things. So she's not playing with the milk money. She's not playing with the mortgage money. So she's retired now. She can do whatever she wants. And that is her path. I see a lot of these people doing surveys, and you've probably seen some of the ads. Take surveys, we'll pay you $50. Guys, I am just not convinced that is a great use of your time. I am not convinced that is a great investment in a side hustle. I am not convinced that is the best way to earn money, which I'm going to go back a slide here. If we look at this, this is probably why we have so many people making under $1,000 a month, because they're doing activities that don't bring a great return. So what are we going to focus on today? We're going to focus on side hustles that have potential for higher return on your investment of time and money. In other words, we're going to focus on that other category. This is where we're going to spend our time. I want to help you find that side hustle that you can get really good at, that you can make some money at, that you can use it as a path to greater satisfaction in your life, and not just a path to more grind. You know, there are people who say, respect the hustle, respect the grind. You got to grind it out. I've stopped using the word grind. If you're already grinding at a 9 to 5, if you're working a job and you're getting paid and you got benefits, I want you to be able to give 100% to that. It's that little extra that you need to be able to give to a side hustle, but it needs to be rooted in joy. It needs to be rooted in something that you love to do. Otherwise, the grind is just going to grind you down. The perfect side hustle is that marriage of what you love to do and what you are good at. I love to play guitar. Nobody will ever hire me to play a gig because I'm not that good at it. Okay, I've got to put my guitar away. I can play, and for my own enjoyment, I can strum a little bit, but I'm never going to make money at it. So that's not a good thing. I love to play golf, but I'm not that good at it. I'm never going to make money at it. I used to, take some money off my buddies when we played in high school and college. I was a little bit better than them, but I'm not pro material. I'm not going to make any money at this. I'm not good enough to give lessons. So even though I love something doesn't mean I'm good enough at it to make money with it. But if you have something that you're both good at and you love it, that is a recipe. That's the beginning of a great side hustle. But what else do you need? You need to start setting some goals. If you're one of those people on that graphic that needs or wants to start a side hustle to earn some extra income, earning extra income is not a goal. Earning an extra $925 a month, because that's how much it's going to cost you to pay off the loan to expand your house or to buy a new car. That's a goal. All right. A very specific goal. If I need to earn another $1,000 a month to put in my retirement because I'm getting older and I'm having to play catch up, that's a goal. right? Set yourself a goal. It doesn't necessarily have to be a financial goal. If you're an artist, you could say, I'm gonna attend. I'm gonna try to sell my stuff at 2 powwows this year. I've got an art festival coming up. I want to sell that. Maybe there's an art competition coming up. I want to enter something in that. Set those goals and give yourself those timelines. What are your interests? Take stock of that. We're going to talk a little bit about that on the next slide, but I think it's important for us to take stock of our interests and our passions and our skills. Now, again, interests and passions are not the same thing. I am interested in learning how to fly, but I'm not at a place in my life where I can get really passionate about it because I just don't have the time to invest in flying lessons. So I'm interested, but it is not a passion of mine. I'll just let somebody else do the flying for a while. You need to also take inventory of your skills. Probably since your very first job, whether it was raking leaves or mowing lawns or babysitting or delivering groceries for your neighbors, whatever it is, washing cars, anything that you've done, you've probably learned something that you carried forward to other jobs. I would almost bet that if your first job was as a cashier in a grocery store, you learned something at age 16 that still is of value today. No matter how many jobs you've had in between that 16-year-old you and the you are today, you're using some of those skills that you picked up on the job. Take inventory of those because it might even come down to the little things you never thought were significant that matter the most. And as you start to look at the types of side hustles you could start, you need to ask, why this? Is this the best thing for me? Or is there something else that's better? Think of this as a shopping trip. You don't have to lock in immediately on the first thing that comes to mind. While I'll admit, sometimes you go with your gut and the first thing that comes to mind might be the very perfect thing for you. Don't feel like you have to get married to that idea right off the bat. Take some time to evaluate it. Is it the best idea for you in terms of your love, your skills, your goals, your interests, passions? Is it the best idea for you given the amount of time you have and the amount of energy you have to put into it? So as we continue down the path of trying to find that perfect side hustle, I want you to complete these sentences. And you don't have to do this right now. Again, you can download this. And Candace, I think Wista's probably seen your email there, and I'm sure there's a way we can get this stuff to you if you're unable to download it from where you are. I don't want to put words in a Wista's mouth, but I would almost guarantee we can get this to you. We want to make sure you get this, but you don't have to do this right now. But at some point, I want you to answer these questions. A topic I've always been passionate about is. Now, if you've always been passionate about something, whether it's playing guitar, whether it's working on cars, whether it's landscaping, interior design, whatever, if you're passionate about it, you've probably invested some time and effort into getting good at it. Let's take that a step further. A topic I would like to help others master is blank. I've got a good friend who is a retired cardiologist. He spent his entire adult life as a medical doctor. But his side hustle has always been, I'm not going to call it a side hustle. Okay, it's a hobby. He rebuilds old cars. He's rebuilt Model Ts. He's rebuilt Carmen Gias. He's rebuilt old Land Cruisers. He's rebuilt us all kinds of vehicles, Corvettes, you name it, from scrapyards. These old barn finds. He takes these things and just does amazing work. But it's always really irked him that so few people know how to do simple things like change their oil, change their brake pads, change their cabin air filter, rotate their tires. He says that it really bothers him that people can't do these simple things and they spend a lot of money. So I was teaching my kids some things as they were getting ready to get their license. They wanted to learn how to change the oil. They wanted to learn how to check the oil. They wanted to learn how to do some basic maintenance. And then they started asking me some questions. I said, you know what, maybe we better go see Earl. I think Earl is probably going to be a better teacher for you. And Earl is passionate about this. He loves to help other people master how to fix their own cars. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. People I know often ask me to help them blank. If people are asking you to help them do something, you may not be the world's leading expert on this, but in their world, you are the leading and most accessible expert they know. That says a lot. You are now becoming a trusted person who people will turn to. In my family, I've become the de facto travel agent because I travel a lot. I've gotten into the points and miles game. That's another little hobby of mine. I know what credit card to use for this because it's going to acquire the most points versus buying this other thing that's going to acquire points on a different card. And so my kids are always calling me help. They need help configuring flights or uh, booking vacations, or what card should we apply for if we want to do this and that. So people I know often ask me to help them plan their travel and also plan their credit card um, game. And I've gotten pretty good at that. There's going to be something in your life that people ask you about. What is it? People ask your advice on blank. If people are asking your advice about things, whether it's how to be a better parent, how to manicure their lawn, how to arrange their dining room, how to remodel their kitchen, how to be a better spouse, you are a trusted advisor. If people trust your advice, if people trust your counsel, if people trust you, you might be able to charge other people for that. A problem people have that I can solve is blank. If you can answer these questions, you might start to see some patterns. Don't look at that third download just yet. Download number 3, Side Hustle Starters. And after you've answered these questions, after you've completed these sentences, then go to that handout. Take a look at that and see if anything there rings a bell. If anything there strikes you as, wow, I could do this. Maybe this would work. You're going to find a lot of things on that list that are not just barn burning money machines. They're not going to make tons and tons of money, but that may not be what you're looking for. You're looking for a good blend of interest, skills, passions, but also, is this something that's needed in my community? Is this something that I can do right here? Is this something that I can do from you are you and nobody else is? And you need to take all of these things into account, which is why we're going to keep going. Now that I've kind of brought it up, let's talk about how much time we have. On average, most people spend 1 to 5 hours a week. 6 to 10 hours a week, followed closely by 1 to 5 hours a week. That's a pretty solid weekend. If you're doing it all on a weekend, it's a couple hours a day, maybe a little bit less than an hour a day. If you're doing it during the week, I've got a friend who wrote a book, and he wrote this book during Wheel of Fortune. Okay, this was his whole thing. I'll just kind of lay this out. He loves Jeopardy, but he hates Wheel of Fortune. So every night when Wheel of Fortune came on, and Wheel of Fortune always comes on first, he would turn the TV off and he would write. And he calculated that when he got into a groove, he could write about a page every 30 minutes. So that gave him time to write a page. If he went a little bit longer, that's fine. If he was in the zone, he would write a little bit longer. But when Jeopardy came on, he would stop and he would watch Jeopardy. Jeopardy then became his reward for writing a page. At the end of a year, he had a book, sent it off to the editor, and had it published. So he was putting in about 30 minutes a day on average in this little side hustle. And he's used that book to propel his full-time consulting business. How much can you put into this? And I've talked to a lot of people who say, well, I work an 8-hour-a-day job. That means I've got 16 hours a day that I can do that. No, at some point you've got to eat. You've got to use the bathroom. You've got to sleep. You've got to play with your kids, get your kids, and you have dinner with friends. You got to go visit family. There are all kinds of things that eat into your time. You might have a leaky kitchen sink. You might have a water heater that begins to leak, and you got to fix it. And you got to deal with things that come up in life. So no, you don't have another 16 hours a day that you could put into your side hustle. Let's be realistic. Take inventory of the hours you work and sleep. What are your non-job obligations? What do your evenings and weekends look like? Do you have family outings? Do you have kids who have ball games? Do you have things that you don't want to miss? And you can't give that time to your side hustle. How much do you want to make? If you want to make $1,000 a month, and you calculate that by doing this side hustle, you could probably earn up to $50 an hour. Well, that's 20 hours a month. How much do you need to make? How much do you need to make? You know, if you're trying to pay credit card bills, maybe your credit card bill, your minimum payment is only $40, and that's going to take you until the year 3,212 to pay it off. So you're not going to live that long. And so you need to be more realistic. Maybe you need to pay it off in a reasonable amount of time. You need to pay an extra $150 a month on that card. So you want to make 1,000, but you need to make 150. Is that a little bit more doable? Is that an easier bite to swallow? Probably. But I want you to be realistic. I want you to take a realistic evaluation of the time that you have to be able to do this. And also go down here and you're going to download number 4, the business plan template. Now, this business plan template is it's a really simple fill in the blank business plan. It's going to help you do a brain dump. In essence, it's going to, as you start to work through some of these processes of developing your side hustle idea, you're going to start to have ideas about how this is going to work. Start filling in the blanks in this little business plan. That's going to help you kind of congeal everything, make it work together. Once you have an idea about how much time you need and how much time you have to spend on your side hustle, we want to maximize the use of that time. I want you to put your side hustle time on the calendar. We are great at keeping appointments with everyone but ourselves. I know people who are very disciplined. Yes, they'll get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. They'll do yoga. They'll meditate. They'll have breakfast. They'll exercise. You know, maybe they'll go for a run, and all of this before the rest of the family gets out of bed. They're very disciplined. I'm not that disciplined. I'll admit. Maybe you're not as well. We go to the dentist when we have a dentist appointment. We go to the doctor when we have a doctor's appointment. We get our oil changed when we have an appointment to take our car in for service. We do a lot of things that we have appointments with other people for, but we don't keep appointments with ourselves. And if we don't have that level of discipline, put it on the calendar and put it on a time when you know you can get this done. If you're not a morning person, don't believe for a second that you're going to start your side hustle by magically starting to get up at 4:30 in the morning and you're going to become a morning person. That is one of the quickest ways to just not do this that I've ever seen. But if you're a night owl, if you know that, hey, after the kids get into bed, you've got, 8:30 to 9:30, you got an hour there easy before you start to see the lights flicker in your own eyes and you can get this done. Put it on a time in your calendar that you know you'll be able to do it. I want you to get family buy-in. Now, this is for a couple of reasons. I want you to talk to your family about starting a side hustle. You don't necessarily need to engage them in helping you, but I want you to do this for 2 reasons. One is if you tell them you're going to start a side hustle, if you if you start to live that out loud, they will hold you accountable. Have them hold you accountable. Hey, what have you done today on your side hustle? What did you do today for your side hustle? I see you're sitting in front of the television. What did you do to further your side hustle? You need people outside of your own self to hold you accountable. We all do. Even if we're highly disciplined, it's just a bonus to have other people backing us up. And it's bonus to have other people holding us accountable because it helps us to stay motivated. The other reason is that this is not going to be easy. Sitting in front of the television, eating ice cream and watching reruns is a much better way to spend your time in my book. It's so much more pleasurable. It's really easy. But I don't need anybody to motivate me to do that. Starting a business is hard, even if it's a side hustle. And if you don't have family buy-in, they're going to be pushing against you at every turn. Oh, stop doing that. Don't go to the garage and work on that project tonight. Let's play a game. Don't. Let's go to see a movie. Let's go down to Aunt Mary's house. They're going to have tons of things for you to do because they don't believe at the same level you believe. It's hard enough to start a business, and if everybody who's closest to you is pulling against you, then they're not helping you. Sometimes you need that family buy-in just to get them to stay out of the way. Small chunks of your time are better. Don't think that you're going to spend all day every Saturday and half the day on Sunday getting this done. It is just not realistic. If you're an artist, if you're a writer, if you are a creative, now I will say that again, exceptions to every rule. If you are a creative, then you might be able to work best in big chunks. In other words, if you're carving, if you're painting, if you're sewing, if you're doing a project, when you get in the zone, you don't want to stop. Keep going. Finish that work. Don't leave yourself a house full of half work that you just have to come back to, and you may not be motivated to do that. When you're in the zone, knock it out. Go ahead and do that. But for the most of us, working in small chunks, eating that elephant one bite at a time is really helpful. For some of us, monk mode works really well. In other words, monk mode is remove yourself, go away from everybody, whether it's going to the garage, whether it's going to your she shed, whether it's going to a walk-in closet, to your basement, to your attic, to a spare bedroom, wherever that is, separate yourself so that you can focus for a while. Even if that focus is only for 30 minutes to an hour, you're going to turn off the distractions. When I'm in monk mode, and I do this quite often, I'm finishing a book, and I try to stay focused, because as I'm finishing it, I'm starting to think, how do I know I'm finished? How do I know? Do I just keep dabbling at it until I've never finished my book? And then my descendants have to publish my posthumous manuscript. No, I want to focus on this. And so there are a couple things that I've started listening to in monk mode. I don't listen to 80s rock music. I don't listen to 90s rock music because I know the words. I'm tempted to sing along. I listen to, this is going to sound crazy, but it really works. I listen to Cuban music. Cuban music tends to be very upbeat, fast-paced, nice beat. I don't understand any of the words. I don't know what they're saying, so I'm not tempted to sing along. But it is a very motivating music. Believe it or not, video game music is designed. Video game music is not written. Oh, and Lindell, yes, you get it. Thank you. Somebody else. I turned my wife onto this, and she thought I was crazy until she tried it. And I've since turned 2 of my employees onto this. I'm like, look, you're listening to the wrong thing. That's why you can't focus. Turn on that Cuban music. Get that Pandora going. Turn on that Cuban music. It's great. But the other thing is that video game music is not written. It is designed. And it's designed to keep you focused. Yes, the focus playlist is on Spotify is great. It's got some spa music. It's got some of those nature sounds. It's going to have some of those things that really drown out the background, but it keeps you focused. And when I'm in monk mode, I just want to put the blinders on, put my head down, and get to work. You want to create a space that is only for the side hustle. Dedicate that side hustle. And Mary, more power to you. Focusing in silence. I'm going to tell you, if I have dead silence, the voices in my head get really, really loud. They start telling me all the things I have to do tomorrow. They have to remind me of all the things I forgot to do today. Yeah, my voices in my head can start making to-do lists that distract me. But if you, my wife she loves silence. She just wants to drive in silence. She just wants to work in silence. More power to you. And so, for some of us, the noise is too much. So, Lord love you, whatever works for you, I am all about it. But that monk mode really is about separating yourself from the distraction. Create the space that is only for your side hustle. If it's a walk-in closet, if it's your basement, if it's a spare bedroom, again, dedicate that space. This is why, this is one of the big things we learned during COVID was that when people were working from home, it was easy to sort of blend everything. That's why people had no off switch. They would eat dinner and sit at the dinner table with their computer and work. I instructed my employees that if they were going to work at home, they had to have an off switch. Everybody quits at quitting time. You know, you stop, you close your computer, and you focus on other things. But I wanted everybody to have a dedicated space. For some of those folks, it was the sofa in a room where, you know, they could just not turn on the TV. It was away from all the other distractions in the house. Some of them, it was the dining room table, kitchen table. I am an empty nester, so I've got two bedrooms. I turn one of the two extra bedrooms. I turn one of those extra bedrooms into an office, and that's where I'm coming to you from today. So it's a really quiet, peaceful place where I can work and get some things done. But if you have a dedicated space for your side hustle, your brain starts to learn that when you enter that space, you're in side hustle mode. So it's easier to get turned on and get creative and ramp up really fast when you enter that space. You go from being distracted to undistracted much more quickly. And finally, be consistent. If you're going to need 30 minutes a day to work on this, if you're going to need an hour a day, put that on the calendar for every day and be consistent. Do something. Do something that furthers your business every single time you've got that on your calendar. But consistency is going to get you a lot further than genius. Trust me, I ain't no genius, but I do pretty well with this. Now, I do want you to download that business plan and work on that business plan, but I'm going to give you something else. You might have seen the business model canvas. This is a really cool tool. There have been books written about this, and a lot of people have just ripped this off. This is not mine. I did not create the business model canvas. You can find the two guys who created this. Go to their stuff. I'm just giving you the blank canvas. How you use it is going to be up to you, and I would suggest digging into this a little bit. But in your business model canvas, you're going to start in the middle with your value proposition. What is that value that you bring to the world? What do you add to the world that nobody else does? Go back to that list. What do people trust you for? What do they ask you about? What do they always come to you for? That's your value proposition. Then you can look at you start moving out from there. Who were your customers? Who could be your customers? What are the channels? Do you need to do this online? Do you need to advertise on Facebook? Do you need to start an Instagram page? Do you need to start a YouTube channel? Do you need to go door to door in small businesses in town? Do you need to walk door to door through the neighborhood? A good friend of mine was writing a book, and this is a different friend, not the Wheel of Fortune hater. That was Rich, and Mike is my other friend who was writing a book. For some reason, I got a lot of people in my life who write books. Mike's wife told him if he didn't get out of the house and do something when he wasn't writing, that she was gonna kill him. So Mike had a lawnmower, and Mike made a T-shirt that said "Mike the Mower," and he went up and down the street. And his entire marketing strategy was to be at least $1 cheaper than the the teenagers. They were doing the same thing. But Mike's marketing channel consisted of a stack of 3x5 blank note cards, a pack of rubber bands, a single hole punch, and a rubber stamp. The rubber stamp, after he would mow someone's lawn and get it looking really nice, he would stamp several cards and he would take them to the houses next door and across the street, every house that you could see from that house. And he would take a rubber band and he would hang that card on the front door. And that card with the little stamp said, "Hi, I'm Mike. I just mowed blank's yard at blank house," and put the address on there. If you like the way it looks and you would like for me to increase the value of your home by making your yard look nice too, call me at, and he put his phone number on there. And he just had a $20 rubber stamp made. So he would carry this around. He would rubber stamp these cards and he would stick them on the doors. And that was his entire marketing strategy. By the time he wrote his book, he had a lawn care company that he actually sold for a tidy profit. It was not his intention to stay in that side hustle forever. But his motivations were very different from making money. It was just, he just wanted to challenge himself. And he did have to get out of the house to preserve his life. But start looking for, who are your customers? What channels are you going to use to reach them? And what segments are there going to be? Maybe you're looking for not the person who's living in the home, but the person who owns the home, because the person who owns the home rents it out and they're responsible for having the lawn mowed. What are your key activities? What are you going to do in this business? The key activities are what you're going to do for your customers. It stems from your value proposition. If your value proposition is that you give good parenting advice, your key activities are that you're going to hold some parenting classes. You're going to start doing some webinars on how to be a better parent. Maybe you're going to start doing some blog posts on, and blog posts could be part of your channels too, but you can do some blog posts on effective disciplinary measures, effective ways to do discipline, effective ways to build kids' self-esteem, things like that. What are your resources? What are the things that you have right now? Maybe you've got a little bit of money in the bank. Maybe you already have a computer and a printer. You don't need to go out and buy those things. Maybe one of your resources is you have a quiet place from which to work. Do you need partners? And if you do, who are those key partners? Maybe you need someone to do your books. Maybe your spouse is a good bookkeeper and can handle your books for you. Maybe you've got a cousin who's really good at digital marketing and social media. You're going to let your cousin handle all of that for you. All kinds of things here that you can plug into this, but this is not really, it's not really a plan, but it is a map. It's to show you what you have around you. And at the bottom, you're going to look, what is your cost structure and what are your revenue streams? Your revenue streams, let's say you're into the parenting advice and people always, you've raised successful children and people are always coming to you for advice. I love it, by the way. My daughter and son-in-law just had a baby a few weeks ago and people are already saying, "You're the best parents ever." Look, if you've got an infant and you're not letting them starve and you're not letting them drown and you're not letting them nasty to death, you're an okay parent, but you've not seen the tough stuff yet. So whether you're a great parent is yet to be seen. And but again, if you have raised really successful kids and people look to you and okay, maybe your revenue streams are going to be your blog posts. Maybe you start a YouTube channel. Maybe you're going to start doing a podcast. Maybe one of your revenue streams is that you're going to hold some classes. Maybe you're going to hold a parenting retreat. Your cost structure is going to stem from that. That's going to be part of what does it cost you to do all of these things? But again, you're doing something that you love and something that you're really, really good at. Well, since we're talking about money, let's talk about how to fund that side hustle. Start with your budget, your personal budget. What do you have? What are you earning right now? What do you need? And remember, we talked a little bit about what you need to earn from your side hustle. Attach dollars to the dream. If you know that you want to pay these credit cards off and be debt free, look, Dave Ramsey's got a lot of stuff going for him. One of the things he's not going to be able to help you do is earn the extra income it takes to do that debt snowball method. There are all kinds of things that are going to take some extra money. But if you attach dollars to the dream, then you're not just dreaming, you're planning. Once you start attaching dollars to the dream, you are planning. Big, big difference. Get your own financial house in order. Okay. We have people who come to us at Sequoia Fund and have for years. This is not unusual. It's not unique to Cherokee. This is universal. And they say things like, well, I just lost my job. I'm getting ready to be foreclosed on. I can't make my payments. I can't pay my credit cards. I'm getting ready to lose my car. I think what I need to do is start a business. No, no. Sometimes starting a business is not the thing that's going to get your ox out of a ditch. Okay. If you are not a great money manager in your own house, you're not going to be a great money manager of your side hustle. Take some time, get your finances in order. Doesn't mean that your bills are paid up and you're debt free. It just means that you're organized. That I could ask you next Wednesday, how much money do you have in your bank accounts? And without looking, you could give me a pretty good, close estimate of how much you have in your checking account, your savings account, things like that. If you understand what bills you have coming up, do you know what your credit card due dates are right off the top of your head? Do you know what your mortgage payment is off the top of your head? Do you know what your average electric bill is off the top of your head? If you understand these things, you have a good financial grasp of your life. We have found that people who do not have a good grasp on their personal finances do not make good business owners, and they do not make good money managers in their businesses, and their businesses fall apart pretty quickly. I don't want to see that happen to you. If it means that you don't start your side hustle for another year, take that year and do what you need to do. Do you need to crack open your piggy bank? Do you have a little money set aside for things like this? Maybe I've been setting aside some money for a vacation and we just couldn't take the vacation this year. So I'm going to either let that build up, or maybe I could start a side hustle and make a lot more money that we could use on a better vacation next year, or maybe 2 or 3 vacations next year. Do you have money that is disposable, that is discretionary, that you could put toward a side hustle? In a real quit your job, start a business. We call that owner's equity. And it's good stuff if you got it. Maybe you need to approach an alternative lender like a native CDFI. At the Sequoia Fund, we can lend money where banks just won't. And we've got banks around us that will just say, we don't care. We don't care who you are, and we don't care how good your credit score is. We don't care how much money you got in the bank. If you're starting a business and we don't do startups, we're not, just as a matter of policy, we're not going to do this. Doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It means that their policy is they don't lend to startups, which means they don't lend to side hustlers either. But a native CDFI can step in. That's where we shine. We help you with these things. We not only help you with the money, we can help you with the planning and all these other things. So we can't serve you outside of the tribe and outside of Western North Carolina, but you're going to get my contact information at the end. If you want to reach out to me, I might be able to point you toward a native CDFI close to you. I'm always willing to help do that. We are, I'm on the board of the Native CDFI Network. We're always trying to help connect people to their native CDFIs and help you use that service. Sell some stuff. Yes, we're back to the Poshmark, eBay, yard sale, garage sale kind of thing. But you've probably got some things lying around that you could sell, that you could free up some cash. Do I really need 3 guitars when I don't play one all that well? Do you really need a fleet of vehicles? We talked to a potential borrower this week. There are 2 people. They're in their early 20s. They just got married and they have 3 vehicles they owe over $100,000 on. 3 vehicles. Do you need a fleet? Sell some stuff. Let's get rid. Are there clothes in your closet that you've not worn in years? Are you going to get skinny again? Are you going to gain weight again? Are you going to be able to fit into those clothes again? Are you ever going to use that thing again? One of the best ways, though, to fund your side hustle is just through organic growth. Sell something and then sell something else and then sell something else and grow that business. Get a contract, get a customer. Just go get a customer. And if you get a customer, you can go get another customer. because you can use that customer to go get other customers. And you could say, well, I've done work for so-and-so, and we've done work for this family, or we've done work for that company. And it builds. It takes longer, but it's the best kind of funding because it's self-funding. You can also look at crowdfunding. Now, this is kind of at the end of the line here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on crowdfunding because that is a webinar in itself, and I'm not qualified to do crowdfunding because there's so many laws around that. There are people who will crowdfund using GoFundMe or things like that. Be careful with that. Just be very careful, because there's a fine line between people giving you money because they like you and people giving you money because they think they're investing in you. And the Federal Trade Commission has had some very serious things to say about that. I don't want to see anybody get in trouble over crowdfunding. Let me warn you against two things that you don't want to use. And you may have already noticed these missing from the list. Sometimes it's hard to see what's not there. So let me just point it out. Credit cards are extremely expensive ways to start a business. I've done it. Trust me. I know. I started a company and I ran up $45,000 in credit card debt. And it took a while to pay that off. It was painful. It was easy. It was so easy to just go get credit cards and fund my business. But the easier it is to get that money, I'll bet you everything I have, it's harder to pay that money back. We have this conversation all the time at Sequoia Fund because we have a lot of small businesses. They want to do the easy route. They want to get that money through their credit card processor. Well, I can get $10,000 tomorrow. I can get $50,000 tomorrow. Yes, you can. And the fastest money to get is the longest money to pay back. The easiest money to get is the hardest money to pay back. The same thing goes for your IRA, your 401k. And it hurts my soul when people have built up an investment and they empty it out and they pay the penalties and they pay the taxes just to start a business. Don't do it. Don't do it. There are so many other ways to fund a side hustle. This ain't the way. This ain't that. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your family. Don't do that to your future. There are other ways. Well, let's talk about, now that we've talked a little bit about organizing it and funding it, how are we going to manage it? How are we going to get some things done in this side hustle? Well, today, thanks to technology, you can be one person with a lot of different skills that you don't have to know anything about. I've given you a list here. These are some sources of talent. These are some sources of skills that you can use. These are things that we've used at Sequoia Fund, that we've used in our own businesses, and I recommend them. Now, you may not be in a place where TaskRabbit exists. TaskRabbit is mainly in larger, mid-size and up towns, so you may not have a TaskRabbit availability where you are. We don't here in Western North Carolina, but where my kids live, where my other business is in Iowa, they do have TaskRabbit. Look. Outsource what you don't know and what you're not good at. Upwork is a dating site for people who have skills and people who need skills. Freelancer and Fiverr.com are the same. 99 Designs, the same. These 4 websites are great for putting out there what you need. Excuse me. Put out there what you need, let people bid on that work, and then you choose, and you get to base that on their reviews, their previous work, their portfolio. So whether it's website design, logo design. Now, I'm going to stop right here because I know there's going to be somebody who says, well, wait a minute, we've got people in our tribe who do that. Okay. I'm giving you options here. We use local companies when we can. We've got a local company that helps us with our computers and our IT. But if our website goes down and it's going to take them 2 days to get to it, a lot of times I can go on Fiverr.com, pay $50 and be back up and running in 15 minutes. You might find that your local embroidery company, you want to do business with them, and they're going to print all your t-shirts, and that's great. But if it's going to take them 3 months to get to the work and you need it next week, you might have to go off the res to get this done. So I'm just giving you options. Please use local businesses when you can. I really can't stress that enough, but we can't always make it work. Okay. You also have, and I'm not going to say her name because she's listening in the next room and she's going to start talking to me, but you know who she is. Starts with an A. We have ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot. These are 3 great. There's also Bing, which is another search engine. It's got ChatGPT built into it, as does Microsoft Copilot. These AI devices are becoming much, much better at helping us. My wife is planning a trip, and to know what to pack, she asked for a detailed weather report, not just for the towns, but for the exact locations, exact times for what we're going to be doing and things like that. It gave her a table, told her exactly what to pack, what the weather was going to be, wind speed and all this other stuff. It was great. Believe it or not, one of the reasons I had kids was for them to do some work around the house. I knew that I wouldn't be able to mow my lawn forever. We get older, and my kids in our early business back in the mid 90s, they would sweep the floor. Nothing was free. They would sweep the floor. They would help us clean some things. They would dust, and they would do some little chores, and we would pay them. It's a great way, by the way, to pay your kids. You can pay them without putting them on the payroll. But when they started mowing my lawn, it did not get done the way I would have done it. It was not up to my specifications, but it was done. It was done. When they started ironing their own clothes, it wasn't done to my wife's specifications, but it was done. And as our kids grow, let's give them some chores. Let's involve them in the business. Let them learn something about entrepreneurship and about that side hustle and about how to earn that money. They're going to learn some skills, and it's going to take time off your plate that you can use somewhere else. Don't let perfection get in the way of things being finished. Okay. So we're going to create 3 lists here in just a second. They're going to help you get a lot of things done. They're going to kind of fit into what we've just talked about here with where do you go to get some of this stuff done. But there's one list to rule them all, just like the ring, Tolkien's ring there. We're not in Middle Earth, but we are talking about the one list to rule them all. This list was actually devised by a guy named Chris Ducker. He's an Australian master side hustler. He outsources. He has multiple companies, outsources almost everything he does to other folks. And he came up with this list. I have found this to be one of the most useful things in helping people plan any kind of business, side hustles especially. So in this first list, I want you to put the things that you hate to do, even if you're good at it. And maybe one of the things you hate to do is laundry. Maybe one of the things you hate to do is car maintenance. Maybe one of the things you hate to do is cleaning your house. It doesn't even have to be business related. Maybe one of the things you hate to do is bookkeeping. Make a list of everything that you hate to do. And then in the center, I want you to make a list of things you can do, but shouldn't. I can build a website. It doesn't mean that building a website is the best use of my time. That is not the best return on investment for me. I'm better off hiring someone to do that. There are a lot of things that we can do, but we should not, because it's not the best use of our time in the construct of building this side hustle. So when we have these 2 lists, the things that we hate to do and the things that we can do, but we probably shouldn't, we're left with the third list. And this is the most important. Things only I can do. This is where your business gets built. You cannot build a business on your weaknesses. You have to build a business on your strengths. And if you whittle everything else away, I was talking with a couple of carvers yesterday, two brothers who are carvers. Their dad's a carver. And it came on the heels of having a meeting with our chief, who's also a carver. Carving is something I can't do, because the essence of a good carver is that they see a block of wood or they see a stone, and they see something in that stone. They see an image in that stone, and they carve away everything that's not that image until they're left with what they saw, whether it's a person, whether it's an animal, whatever it is. I can't do that. So these are things that they do really, really well. If I were that person, if I could carve, and I know that I see something unique in that block of wood, I'm gonna carve that block of wood. Nobody else is gonna carve what I'm gonna carve. That's a thing that only I can do. And when I'm finished, I can sell that carving for $200. I can sell it for $2,000. I can sell it for $20,000, whatever that is. Am I going to spend my time messing around with a website, trying to build a website? Am I going to spend my time trying to do my own bookkeeping when I can have someone else do that for me and let me spend my time doing that thing that only I can do? It only makes sense that I would let someone else do that. So when we put these three lists together, we're going to outsource or hire for these first two lists. We're going to turn this over to somebody else. Anything in these two lists, we're going to let somebody else do it. And we're going to focus on the third list. Only things that only you can do. And by the way, focus, excuse me, throat's dry. Let me hydrate here a second. Oh, sorry about that. Focus is an acronym. I'm going to put this in the chat. Focus is an acronym. Follow one course until success. Follow one course until success. If you can focus on only those things that you can do, that only you can do, your business is going to be so much better off. And it's going to be so much more fun, because that's where your interests and your skills and your passions all align. Remember, we're talking about side hustles here. We're not talking about quitting your job, investing a ton of money, and starting a business. This is a side hustle. And you don't have to be huge to be good. In fact, with one or two little things, one of which you probably already have, you can do this. Your mobile device can do almost everything your computer can do. It can do your bookkeeping. It can handle your marketing. It can handle all your communications. It can be your photo studio, your video studio. In fact, I know several folks who are running very successful businesses and never use a traditional computer, desktop, laptop, anything like that. One guy runs a mobile detailing business that he started as a side hustle when he was in high school. He played sports, and so this was, between school and sports, this was definitely a side hustle for him, but it just grew and grew. He started out with one van. It was an old beat up van. I always joked with him that if he ever wrote free candy on the side of the van, he could get arrested. But this old van, he would go around to people's homes and businesses and clean their vehicles, and he did a great job. And now he owns a fleet of 3 vans with 3 crews, and he runs everything from his cell phone. The other thing there, and I put this is not, I don't own Brother Stock. I am not shilling for Brother Stock. I am not advocating for Brother Stock. I'm just telling you, this is a machine that I have in my office, both here and at Sequoia Fund. In fact, I've had 2 of these. These machines are unkillable. They are workhorses. It is a multi-function printer, copier, scanner, fax. Not that anybody's ever going to ask you for a fax anymore. But these machines are indestructible. And with this little machine, I can print laser quality invoices, documents, things that, handouts for seminars and the courses that we do. These are just so good. And they're about $300 to $350 a piece, 300, 350. It's very affordable. But with these two things, I can create documents on my phone and I can send them directly to the printer wirelessly. It makes you look like a very big business without having to be a big business. Well, speaking of big business, if you work for one, or if you work for your tribe, or if you work for, anybody else, I don't want you to get in trouble. So let's talk about how to stay out of trouble with the boss. Number one, never violate company policy. Remember, I said that when I first started my side hustle working for the college, I had to disclose that. I had to tell them what I was doing. I wasn't necessarily having to ask for permission, but everything had to be above board. I had to complete that form every year. The state auditor actually had authority to investigate anybody who was found to be operating a business on the side outside of college employment without having one of these documents on file. I just didn't want that kind of hassle. I wanted a side hustle, not a side hassle. Don't use your company time and don't use company assets. Don't be tempted to go use the copier to print an invoice. Don't be tempted to use a computer to answer an email. Don't be tempted to use the company's anything to do anything related to your side hustle. In fact, a lot of businesses have employment agreements where anything you create on company time belongs to the company. It doesn't belong to you. You can't take it with you, and the company now owns it. So just don't. Don't steal company customers. Boy, this is a big one. We've seen people say, "Well, I'm going to go start my business. I'll just tell these customers that they can come with me." Whoa, whoa, whoa! Don't get in trouble, because that's a quick way to do it. Do bring to work what you learn from your side hustle. You're going to learn lots. It's a two-way street. Whatever you've learned from all that you've done to this point is going to play into your side hustle. Take what you learn from that, bring it back to your job, benefit your job, the job that's paying your bills, the job that's paying your insurance, and things like that. I've got an employee who came in my office one day, and I've been encouraging her for a number of years I always encourage our employees to start a side hustle. I want them all to, because I think as small business lenders, the more they understand firsthand what our business owners are going through, the more empathetic and compassionate we're going to be, the more understanding we're going to be, the better we're going to be equipped to handle their issues. So I want everybody to have a little side hustle. Well, this particular employee started a side hustle. She's making ribbon skirts. She came in my office one day. She closed the door. She said, "We need to talk." And then I reminded her, that is not the way you start a conversation with the boss. Okay. This scares the boss. This makes the boss think you're going to quit. And she says, "Oh no, I just want you to know that last month I made more money in my fashion business than I made at Sequoia Fund." And then I really got scared. I said, "Well, what does that mean?" She said, "Well, I'm never going to leave. My benefits are too good. I love what I do. I'm enjoying it. You're going to have to drag me out of here. I'm never leaving." She said, "But I just thought you'd like to know that I'm now making more money, more income from my side hustle than from my main hustle." And I was so proud of her. And I still am. And I've dragged her to events where she has to speak to youth groups and school groups and kids, and just, I'm like, "Look, Faith, inspire these kids, to tell them what you've done, because they're not going to believe me. Look at the gray I've got in my beard." And that's an old picture. There's a lot more gray in my beard now than there was when that photo was made. So, I drag Faith everywhere and make her talk to these people about what she's done, because it's really inspiring. But she reminded me that she has not forgotten what income pays the rent, what pays her house payment. It's Sequoia Fund. What pays her insurance and things like that, it's Sequoia Fund. Don't forget who takes care of you. It's your employer. Don't risk that. Don't put that in jeopardy. And appreciate that safety net. Enjoy it while you've got it, because there are a lot of people who start side hustles that end up becoming their main hustle because the company goes under or they get laid off. Things happen, folks. So Be careful out there. Should your side hustle become your main hustle? Well, there's no easy answer to this, but you will know if you track your financial progress. This means you're going to have good bookkeeping. You can't just do what we call checkbook balancing. Checkbook balancing means if I've got money in the bank, my business is doing well. Not necessarily. We've talked to a lot of our small business owners who believe if they have checks in their checkbook, they've got money in the bank. Try that one on for size. So track your financial progress. Again, if you have goals in what you want to do in this side hustle, it's so much easier to track. Use your job as your motivation. Your job can motivate you to be a better side hustler, not because you hate your job, but because your side hustle is feeding you. It's feeding you intellectually, emotionally. If you decide that you do want to cut the cord and go off on your own, put your last day on the calendar. It might be 2 years, it might be 3 years, 5 years from now. This is the beauty of Google Calendar. This is the beauty of Outlook. You can go on those calendars. You can go out that far, however far you need. Put your last day on the calendar. That's just another goal. Now, are you going to tell people or are you not going to tell people? If you're above board with this, it's not going to be a secret. People at work are going to know that you have a side hustle. I'm not about keeping secrets. Now, again, if you're working for an organization that does not want you to do this, you're kind of flirting with disaster as it is. So you may not want to tell. Mary, I'm going to answer your question here in just a second. Thank you for that. Consider the total value of your employment. Remember, I said that Faith earned more income from her fashion business than from Sequoia Fund. But if you take the totality of the value of her employment, what her insurance is worth, what her retirement plan is worth, what her 401k is worth, what we contribute to that 401k, she would have to perform so much higher, at such a higher level in her business that it may not be worth it to her to cut the cord. I've seen people leave a really good job for $1 more an hour and actually make less money because they didn't take the total value into account. You know, maybe the job that they left gave them more days off, contributed more to the 401k, gave them more leave time when they had kids, things like that. But there should be no surprises for your family. Your family needs to know. And again, your family needs to know everything because one, they need to help motivate you, push you along, and two, they need to stay out of your way. Okay. So Mary asked, would a basic subscription to QuickBooks suffice to track financial progress? Yes, but. Okay. So let me type something in here, Mary. I'm going to give you guys a resource here. Okay. Here's what I'm going to say about QuickBooks. And we use QuickBooks at Sequoia Fund. I use QuickBooks in my business. If you are not good at programs like these financial programs, QuickBooks, if you're not good at keeping up with your money, if you're not good at an organization, QuickBooks may not be for you because it will help you dig a faster hole, but it's not necessarily going to help you do a better job. Okay. So, I recommend the Dome Simplified Monthly Bookkeeping Record. It's about $25 at any bookstore. You can get it online at Walmart, Amazon, Staples, Barnes & Noble. Any local bookstore can get it for you. You can start any month. It is a very simple, manual, paper-based way of doing this. I recommend do that for a year and then go to QuickBooks. Get a good handle on how this needs to be set up, or you could find yourself in a lot of trouble really, really quickly. Okay. I hope that helps. If you understand QuickBooks and you understand computers, go for it. I would also maybe have an accountant look it over, make sure it's just set up right. You don't want to find at the end of a year you've put everything in and it's all wrong. It has to be redone. All right. Last full slide that we've got here. I'm going to leave you with this because our time is up. Tips for a successful side hustle. Start small. Don't try to do everything. Don't try to be all things to all people, because if you try to be all things to all people, you'll be nothing to nobody. Pick one thing to focus on. Focus. Remember, follow one course until success. Write down your goals daily, monthly, weekly. Commit to learning about your industry. Just because you are really good at this and you know it doesn't mean you know everything. Know your customers, learn your customers, find out who they are, set the deadlines and milestones, meet them. Again, set appointments with yourself and keep those. Stay away from the distractions. Test drive a product. Remember, organic growth is best. Sell something. Get a customer. See what happens. Joining a trade or professional association is a great investment of money. It's a great investment of time. You're going to find a lot of value in those. We can help you. If you want to contact me, I might be able to point you in the right direction for one that fits whatever side hustle you're looking to start. Cut the distractions and time wasters out of your life. You might want to stop making the to-do list. To-do lists are great, but they're not enough. Make yourself a don't-do list. Make yourself a don't-do list and put on there all the things that you do to waste time, and then don't do those things. Finally, stick to what you know. Do that, and you're going to be okay. Don't try to go too far afield where you have to learn a lot of stuff. Mary says, when would be a good point to open a business bank account, or is it necessary because this is a side hustle? Great question, Mary. And I'm so glad you asked it, because that's one of the things that I did leave out. Start that business bank account today. Once you've decided on your side hustle, once you've decided that this is a path you're going to go down and you've got an idea, go ahead and open a business checking account, because you want to start moving money into that to run your business. You don't want to mix your business and personal money. When you start mixing business and personal money, you're going to use the personal credit card to buy supplies. You're going to use the business debit card to buy groceries. It's just going to turn into a huge mess. So avoid that. Go ahead and you can take $100 and start a little business account for your side hustle. And most banks will open those for free. It doesn't really cost you anything. There's no fees on that unless you write a really large number of checks. But the deal that I make with the Native Learning Center, and the deal that I make with everyone I do these webinars for, is you can always reach out to me. If you've got questions, if you've got issues that you want to work through, if you get in the middle of these, maybe the business plan or some of these handouts that I've given you, and you've got questions, go ahead and reach out to me. I will always respond to you. Just say, hey, Russ, I was in the webinar and got a question for you. I'm pretty quick to respond even when I'm out of the office. I want to help you. Side hustle is fun. It needs to be fun. It needs to be energizing. It needs to be something that gives to you rather than takes away from you. And I really appreciate you giving me your time today. I know that you could have spent the last hour and a half doing almost anything, and I'm honored that you spent it with me. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Awista.
Thank you, Russ. You did an incredible job as always. I went ahead and put your email and phone number in the chat. Like Russ mentioned earlier, please feel free to reach out to him. He is incredible. If he doesn't have the answers, he certainly will find someone with the answers. So please use him as a source. If you enjoyed today's webinar, please let us know what you thought by filling out the survey. I'll go ahead and launch it right now. Russ does read all of the surveys. He does enjoy your guys' feedback and is always wanting to know how he can improve and what he can include in the future webinars for you guys. So please let us know what everybody thought. We greatly appreciate it. It is anonymous. Our next webinar is going to be September 9th. It is going to be Executive Directors Training Day 1 presented by Cheryl A. Cosley. This is going to be a week full of webinars. This is just day 1. So please make sure you register for the whole week. It'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Pacific, and 10 a.m. Alaska time. As always, registration is free, so please register. You can access this webinar recording and all of our other webinar recordings on our website at www.nativelearningcenter.com. It is under the Recorded Cathedra tab. You can access this recording and any other recording for up to 2 years. If you have any issues finding the webinar recording, please let me know and I'd be more than happy to send you the direct link. Don't forget to check out our upcoming events on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We also have a podcast called Hope Athinga Native American Podcast, and you can hear us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Simplecast. Thank you once again, Russ, for an incredible webinar, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope everybody enjoyed it and has a wonderful day.
Thank you.